Hello learners, I am R. Swarnalatha, Assistant Professor from the Department of Management Sciences at PSG College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore. I welcome you to the session on strategy implementation in an individual firm. We will be looking into what are the dimensions needed for implementing a strategy successfully by an individual firm. Harvard Business School views that the major task of implementing strategy is to create a fit between the company's goals and its other activities. Generally, two types of fit needs to be created. Number one, the fit between strategy and functional policies. And number two, the fit between the strategy and the organization structure, process and systems. Two views that suggest the relevant framework for strategy implementation are McKinsey's 7S framework and A.T. Kearney's growth drivers. First, let's look into McKinsey's 7S framework. This model was developed by the US management consulting firm McKinsey and Company and hence known as McKinsey's 7S framework. It consists of 7 factors to organize a company in a holistic and effective way. All the 7 factors interact and determine the way in which the company operates. Various components of McKinsey's 7S framework are as follows: strategy, structure, systems, staff, skills, style, and shared values. Strategy is a means to achieve objectives. Structure is a basic framework to designate responsibilities and functions. Systems is a management tool for planning, decision making, communication and control. Staff refers to human resources of the organization. Skills are organizational and individual capabilities. Style refers to how managers lead and motivate. Shared values are organizational values which govern the behavior of its members. Once again, the components of 7S framework are strategy, structure, systems, staff, skills, style and shared values. Coming to A.T. Kearney's growth drivers. A.T. Kearney, another US-based consultancy firm, conducted a study and identified 5 organizational growth drivers for strategy implementation. Number 1 is leadership. Number 2 is strategy. Number 3 is competencies and resources. Number 4 is organizational design. And number 5 being organizational culture and climate. With this background, let's go in detail of how effective strategies are implemented by business firms. Effective strategy implementation requires managers to consider a number of factors including organizational structure, leadership, power and organizational culture. These 4 factors lead to 3 approaches in strategy implementation. Number 1 being the structural implementation, number 2 being the behavioral implementation, and number 3 is the functional implementation. Let's begin with structural implementation. It focuses on having an effective organizational structure to create a conducive climate for implementing any strategy in the firm. So what is organizational structure? It involves arrangement of activities and assignment of personnel to these activities in order to achieve the organizational goals in an efficient manner. It is the way by which various parts of an organization are tied together in a coordinated manner, and it illustrates the various relationships among various levels of hierarchy within the organization as well as horizontal relationships among various functions of organizational operations. In general, it refers to the way individual and groups are arranged with respect to the task they perform. An effective organizational structure should have a good organizational design. Organizational design refers to the process of coordinating these structural elements in the most effective and efficient manner. Now, what's the relationship between a strategy and structure? Strategists should design and implement an appropriate structure to carry out the strategy. The strategy and structure must be consistent with each other in order to successfully implement a given strategy. Now let's discuss the benefits of having a sound organizational structure to implement a strategy. A good organizational structure facilitates attainment of objectives through proper coordination of all activities. In a good organizational structure, the conflicts between individuals over jurisdiction are kept to a minimum. It eliminates overlapping and duplication of work. It decreases the likelihood of confusion and duplication of work among individuals. It facilitates promotion of employees and helps in wage and salary administration. Communication is easier at all levels of organizational hierarchy. A well-structured organization provides a sound basis for effective planning. It results in increased cooperation and a sense of pride among the members of the organization. It encourages creativity and innovation among the employees. Having said the importance of having a sound organizational structure, let's see how to build a successful organizational structure. 3 steps are involved in building a successful organizational structure. First step includes the determination, identification and enumeration of activities into sub-activities. Second step involves grouping and assigning of similar activities on the basis of divisions or departments based on the managerial functions like production, finance, marketing, human resources and so on. The third step involves the delegation of authority to execute the operations in an optimal manner and assigning of responsibility and accountability. Having said about the way to create an effective organizational structure, what are the determinants that make an effective organization structure? The important determinants of structure include the environment, technology, size of the organization, and organizational life cycle. These 4 factors would determine the philosophy and strategy of central management, which forms the foundation for organizational structure. Next, how are organizational structure classified? They are classified as mechanistic structure and organic structure. So what is mechanistic structure? The word mechanistic implies that it's governed by strict rules and regulations. This believes in strict adherence to rules, which would make bureaucracy a very efficient form of organization founded on the principles of logic, order, and legitimate authority. It is characterized by control structures based on rigid authority, verbal communication from top down, limited distribution of information, decisions from the top, and the demands of loyalty to organization and management. The main features of this structure are division of labor by functional specialization, a well-defined hierarchy of authority, a system of rules and procedures to deal with, selection and promotion of employees based upon technical competence and excellence. The second type of organizational structure after mechanical structure is organic structure. The term organic corresponds to flexibility. This type of structure is flexible in order to cope up with rapidly changing environments. It encourages autonomy, openness, change, support for creativity and innovation, and opportunities to try new approaches. The main features are tasks and roles are less rigidly defined, decision making is more centralized, friendly work environment, flexible departmental boundaries, flat organizational structure, and capability to change to environment. So what are the types of organizational structure? Organizational structure is classified based on hierarchy, functions, communication flow, interrelationships, divisions, departments and operations as simple structure or line structure, functional structure, divisional structure, multidivisional structure, project structure, matrix structure and network organizational structure. Thus, the structural implementation talks about having an effective organizational structure for implementing the new strategy. Next dimension is behavioral implementation, which deals with those aspects of strategy implementation that have an impact on the people in the organization. There are 6 behavioral issues relevant for strategy implementation. Number 1 being the leadership. Number 2 is the organizational culture. 3 are the values, ideologies and ethics. 4 being the social responsibility. 5 being the corporate governance and 6 organizational power and politics. Now let's look into each behavioral issue in detail. To begin with, the first behavioral component is leadership. It's basically a very powerful and influencing leader who is important to drive the workforce to accept and adopt any new strategy. The manager should have the ability to persuade others to implement the strategies willingly. Transformational leadership is the order of the day. It should drive the workforce towards realizing the vision of the firm and achieving excellence in implementing the strategy. Strategic leadership is the process of transforming an organization with the help of its people so as to put it in a unique position. So unique features of this are, it deals with accomplishment of vision, mission, organizational goals and objectives. It emphasizes on transformational leadership, which focus on the need for vision, need for change and flexibility in operations. It inspires and motivates people to work together with a common vision and purpose. It has an external focus and constantly keeps track with changing business environment. The main role of leadership in strategy implementation lies in introducing change, integrating conflicting interest, developing motivational systems, setting organizational climate and leadership development. Therefore, one of the key elements in a successful strategy implementation is the strong leadership that steers the workforce to implement the strategy. The next behavioral component is the organizational culture. It is another element which affects strategy implementation as it provides the framework within which the behavior of organizational members take place. Organizational culture is the set of assumptions, beliefs and norms that are shared by an organization's members. It includes abstract elements like assumptions, beliefs, values and norms, material elements like products, buildings, dress code, logo, etc. There are 7 features that forms the base for organizational culture. They are innovation, risk-taking, attention to details, outcome orientation, team orientation, aggressiveness and stability. Organizational culture influences the behavioral pattern of employees in the organization. It creates impact on setting of objectives, work ethics, motivational pattern and organizational process like planning, decision making, controlling, directing and so on. More and more organizations are becoming culturally diverse. Cultural diversity means that people of different races, gender, ages, religion and capacity are bringing different cultural perspectives to the workplace. Therefore, management must organize cultural diversity training programs to amalgamate such diverse backgrounds and turn it into a strategic advantage. It's more so needed for implementing global strategy. Ryan Smith has suggested 6 specific guidelines that assist in creating a global culture within organization. Create a simple and clear mission statement. create a system that ensures effective flow of information, create a broad mind in the managers to think globally, develop global career paths, use cultural differences as a major asset, and implement worldwide education and team development programs. These guidelines assist organizations to create a global organizational culture. The whole world is shrinking into a global village, and global business and social interactions required the integration of various diverse cultures into an unified organization philosophy and coordinated operations while considering to implement a strategy. The third behavioral component needed for successful strategy implementation are the pertinent values, ideologies, and ethics practiced in the organization. These elements determine the manner in which strategy is implemented, as it influences individual behavior and organizational behavior. Values are beliefs that guide actions and judgments across a variety of situations and individuals. They are those principles and qualities that shape our thinking and behavior. Ideologies are the organized collection of ideas reflecting social needs and aspirations of an individual, a group, a class, a culture, and behavior. It's made up of core values and principles that drive organizations to excel and move forward. These principles guide them to succeed at tough business situations and deal critical incidents tactfully without compromising on value systems. Ethics are moral principles which guide an individual's behavior. Business ethics operate as a system of values that enforces discipline, morale, trust, transparency, honesty, integrity, and commitment in business dealings. A strong corporate culture based on ethical business principles and values is a vital force which binds all workforce towards fulfilling the organizational success. Most executives are convinced that a company must incorporate a code of ethics in its internal environment. High moral values and ethical standards nurture the corporate culture in a very positive way. It forges a bonding between individuals and organizations and thereby promotes the overall success of the employees and the organization. Strategy implementation is affected by the pertinent value systems adopted by the employees in the organization, from the top level management ranging from board of directors, chief executive officer, managers, etc., to the bottom level management who are the operating staff. It is strongly believed that organizations should develop a dominant and coherent set of shared values. This way, all employees will have a predictable behavior pattern which is consistent with the organizational philosophy, and it will also necessitate and encourage group cohesion, and such group cohesion will facilitate successful implementation of corporate strategies. Therefore, business firms should strongly advocate for sound value systems, ideologies, and ethics for the successful implementation of any strategy. After leadership, organizational culture, and value systems, next important behavioral component is social responsibility. It's also called corporate conscience, corporate citizenship, social performance, or sustainable responsible business. It's a form of company's self-regulation integrated into a business model. It's a fact that business firms should be socially responsible. Business enterprise which makes use of resources of society and depends on society for its functioning should discharge its duties and responsibilities in enhancing the welfare of the society. The company must accept its obligation to be socially responsible and to do work for the larger benefit of the community. Corporate social responsibility is defined as the actions that appear to further some social good beyond the interest of the firm and that which is required by law. According to the World Business Council for Sustainable Development in 1999, Corporate social responsibility is the continuing commitment by the business firms to behave ethically and contribute to economic development while improving the quality of life of the workforce, their families, consumers, stakeholders, local community, and society at large. It is the company's commitment to operate in an economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable manner while balancing the interest of diverse stakeholders. Corporate social responsibility has become an integral part of corporate strategy. It stipulates open and transparent business practices that are based on ethical values and respect for employees and the concern. It is designed to deliver the sustainable value to the society at large as well as the shareholders. Now, the fifth behavioral component is the corporate governance. Corporate governance is defined as the determination of broad uses to which organizational resources will be deployed and the resolution of conflicts among the participants in the organization. World Bank says that the essence of corporate governance is the identification of ways to ensure that strategic decisions are made effectively. It is also about promoting fairness, transparency, accountability, and equality of treatment for all its stakeholders. Corporate governance means that long-term strategic objectives and plans are established and that proper management structure is in place to achieve those objectives, while at the same time making sure that the structure functions to maintain the corporation's integrity, reputation, and responsibility to its various constituents. The concept of corporate governance rests on complete transparency, integrity, and accountability of the management. There is increased focus on investor protection and public interest. It is concerned with values, vision, and visibility of the organization in its performance. It's therefore more important to consider corporate governance while implementing the strategy. As stipulated by the corporate governance practices, the board of directors carry out three basic tasks. They monitor the developments within and outside the organization. They enhance the evaluation of performance of organization and support in formulation and implementation of the strategies. Hence, successful corporate governance practices facilitate easy strategy implementation. The last behavioral component that enhances the success of strategy implementation is the organizational power and politics. Power is the reflection of influence that one person may have over others. The essence of power is control over behavior of others. Accordingly, a manager has to have power which he can use to implement the strategy. What are the sources of power? A person in an organizational setting can have power from two sources. These are interpersonal sources and structural sources. Interpersonal sources focus on the interpersonal relationships between the manager and the subordinates. The 5 sources of power dependent on interpersonal relationships are legitimate power, reward power, coercive power, expertise power, and referent power. Next is structural and situational sources of power that includes the knowledge as power, resources as power, decision making as power, and reciprocal relationship as power. If interpersonal sources of power and structural and situational sources of power are strengthened, the manager has enough power to lead the subordinates in the implementation of the strategy. Organizational politics and power are so closely related towards implementing a strategy. Politics is concerned with acquiring the necessary power to make subordinates work for the change. Adequate balancing of power and politics leads to favorable organizational climate or working condition necessary for the employees while implementing a strategy. After seeing the structural and behavioral aspects needed for the strategy implementation, the next dimension is functional implementation. Functional implementation of strategies deal with the formulation of various functional strategies. Based on these strategies, functional policies and plans are developed. When these functional policies and plans are put into action, they bring results. Functional strategies deal with how various business functions of an organization should be performed so that they contribute positively to individual business strategies and overall corporate strategies. They are primarily concerned with various activities in each functional area like sales, promotion, market research, distribution, etc., and assuring that functional strategies sync with business strategies and overall corporate strategies. The different types of functional strategies include production or operation strategy, marketing strategy, financial strategy, research and development strategy, and so on. Strategy implementation becomes effective if various activities in the functional strategy are performed in a cohesive and unified way, contributing positively towards accomplishing the organizational goals and objectives. To sum up, strategy implementation can be successful if we could be able to understand the various modes of implementing strategies and understanding clearly the elements like leadership, culture, power, politics, corporate governance, and so on, which coordinate with each other to implement the strategies successfully. Having shared with you the insights on the strategy implementation, I thank you for your patronage. See you in the next session. Thank you.